record.
Good evening and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for 40K from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 65. It is a 40K show all about the new Horus Heresy box and the Tau Codex because that's the recent releases from GW that are taking our fancy. As usual, I am your host Chris at CanHammer Chris on Twitter, and I am joined by my co-host for the evening, Mr.
Logan from OnePlus Armor. That's at OnePlus Logan on Twitter.
So our website is canhammer.com. If you want more information, links to the forums, link to the OnePlus Armor No Save YouTube channel, and this Twitch channel, of course. If you have maybe stumbled across us in the Twitter feed, you can go to canhammer.com and it'll just spread you out to all these different resources. This is a bi-weekly talk show that Logan and I, plus other guests, Ron and other people, come on and do. We do it every other Tuesday, and we kind of bring you the news and anything that picks our fancy. Now, we always tell you what our main overlying game is for the episode. So this one is 40K. That way, if you are not interested, because we get a lot of positive feedback for our AOS shows, actually. People really enjoyed those. So if you're not interested in 40K, you don't have to listen, but now you know. And an AOS show will be coming to you next, which will be in 2 weeks' time. Okay, so first thing we're going to get into is we're going to see, what kind of hobby we've been up to the last few weeks. So I'll start with you, Logan. What have you been up to? How you been, buddy?
All right, so I've been good. Been working on a bunch of stuff. We've got Du Bois coming up next weekend. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I've been finishing painting my army for Du Bois, which at this point, fortunately, has only been 2 models I've needed to do, which is a Storm Surge, which is actually sitting down in my car, and a Calexis Assassin. And I have managed to finish both of those. So I will be going into this with everything painted, not last minute. So I'm happy with that.
So why, just while we're here, why did you choose the Calexis Assassin? Because there's 4, it's the new model you have, correct?
Yes.
So there's 4 absolutely stunning Assassin models. So why'd you pick the Calexis?
The Calexis, I chose, so it's Highlander format for the comp, which means you can only have 1 of everything, which in some cases sort of limits your ability, well, in all cases, limits your ability to spam the really good stuff, which is, what I enjoy about 40K. So with that, I figured I really need to take advantage of, 1, the fact that in this comp there's unlimited detachments, and 2, that I have a chance for 140 points to plug a huge hole in my list, which is Psychic Defense. So, what better way than a Calexis Assassin? It's tough to kill, it's relatively mobile since it infiltrates, and it is amazing at killing Psychers and Brotherhood of Psychers units.
Okay, so just for people that don't know, because we have a lot of people that maybe were ex-fantasy players, how does he kill Psychers?
All right, so Calexis Assassin has a couple things going for him. First off, he's pretty durable in that if you shoot at him or attack him in close combat, you are weapon skill or ballistic skill 1, which is very nice. But the main thing, as you mentioned, Chris, is against Psychers. So first off, if you're within 12 inches of him, you do not generate warp charge.
Which is huge.
Which is huge, yeah. You only harness warp charge on a 6 instead of a 4. Any blessings or maledictions that are cast on you or any other units within 12 inches of the assassin are instantly nullified. So if you've got endurance on you, invisibility, forewarning, any of this stuff, it is gone the second this guy's within 12 inches of you. So suddenly that invisible Death Star, which granted doesn't work in this comp, but in general, which is quite annoying, is just as vulnerable as it was if you never had those Psychers.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Because that's what a lot of people do with their Marine Army. They have this nice Death Star, invisible at every turn. You can't hurt it. It kills 2 units to 3 units of yours per turn, and it wins the long game. Whereas, yeah, you basically, you could even suicide this assassin out in front of it, put your whole Tau army, because that's what you play, into that, and you're going to cripple it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you have to throw him away, he's relatively durable in combat. He gets instant death on 6s in all his attacks. So if you have to throw him into that unit just to tie them up, he's tough to hit and he's killing stuff. So it's worth the sacrifice sometimes.
Cool. So that was a little bit of a divergence from hobby, but I thought it was worthwhile. So I guess we'll go on. Is that it for you reading the books, novels, or nothing?
Nope, just been catching up on the new Tau book, which we're going to talk about.
That's, the topic of the show. So I've been painting a lot of stuff for Du Bois as well. Highlander changes the way that you do everything. So instead of spamming, as Logan said, I took all my bikes and I had to make one unit. And So I got tons to paint. So I'm working on my Eldrad. I got him basically up to dip stage, I call it. So he's being painted with the two base colors and then washed. And then I'll have to go through and highlight him if I get to it. I also, as we talked about last show, I finished working on. He's not done. He needs highlights, but I got my Inquisitor done. I
Excellent.
found an old like Necromunda model. He's the guy with the two bolt pistols, and I thought he looked very appropriate as like an Ordo Xenos Inquisitor
Yep.
because most of the Inquisitor models have like the Indiana Jones style hat, and like they look very like witch hunter from the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
And I was like, that doesn't look like a guy that's out there fighting and mixing with Xenos scum.
Yeah, it should be a little more gritty.
Yeah, he should be more like. I kind of think this guy looks very punkish, very, I would say like West Coast. So I picked him, and then I had one servo skull that's an actual servo skull model, and then I did up two other ones just using skeleton warriors heads and vehicle bits that I glued on. Then I got those up to dip stage as well. If you're following the feed, you might be able to see in the camera. They're very tiny.
Yep.
These things are amazing. We talked about them last show. They're 34 points of just wind, no infiltration, no scout. A lot of people gave me some, not flack, but hey man, you don't need that. Like, but I'm going to assure you that when you play that Ravenwing army, or when you play, because I have Eldrad, D3 of my units scout, which means that if you have like a Dark Eldar guy with one infiltrated unit of Mandrakes, you've now screwed up my whole scouting plans. Yep. If I screw the roll up against Ravenwing, so because I'm taking Eldrad, these 34 points guarantee.
One thing to keep in mind though, because I hit this problem. You haven't played your list yet, have you?
Nope, not with the Inquisitor. I've played
right. So
similar.
That's going to catch you. So I'll save you some pain and suffering now. Because you are not Battle Brothers, you count as an enemy unit. So you cannot infiltrate or scout within 12 inches of your own servo skulls.
Yes, but I can put it 6 inches out of the enemy deployment zone.
Yes,
and
you can. Go up 6. And you can still go up a little bit, but something to keep in mind, because I screwed myself over really hard the first game I played.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was kind of... I didn't think it worked that way, but I didn't verify it, but I guess good to know.
Yep.
But yeah, like, you just... Now that just says... Immediately I'm just like, oh, I just put them on the enemy deployment line. Because he still can't scout, and I can still scout up 12.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. You just have to be wary of how you're setting them up.
Yeah, and then infiltrators won't be able to place because they'll only be 12 inches in no man's land. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, it changes nothing, but no, thanks for reminding me. That's very... It's always handy when you have friends to run ideas by because, especially if you haven't tested your lift as thoroughly. I was going to get some test games in, and then I got strep throat and was out for like a week and a half. And then I've been working on my warp spiders, so I got them... I started doing some of the bone color, which still looks terrible, but I'm going to do the best I can with this army. Because of my illness, I was unable to get as much done as I wanted to, but that's what I've been working on. Did some reading. I'm working on I forget the name of the book I'm reading. It's upstairs, but it's the Battle for Kelf, which is it Kelf, the one the Ultramarines fight the... What's the new Horus Heresy box? What
it's Kelf, yeah.
It's Kelf.
Yeah.
I'm reading the book for that.
Okay.
Coincidentally. So it's Kelf, or Kelp, or I don't know.
Yeah, Calth, I think.
Yeah, Kelth. So I'm reading that book, which is pretty awesome because I'm at the point where the word bearers are just about to betray the Ultramarines, and they're like going on this joint exercise. They're all buddy-buddy, and it's like, oh, I know it's coming, but it's going to be good. I just thought it was coincidence that I went on to that book from an AOS novel, and that's just exactly where the Horus Heresy game that we're going to talk about in a minute is.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, so I guess that's that for hobby. We haven't been going crazy, but I think we've done a respectable amount.
Yeah. We got something painted. That's better than most times we've been on this show in the past couple of years.
I don't know. I paint something every week.
Well, that's true. I'm thinking the other guys. How many beers does Ron owe you now?
Yeah, he hasn't painted a single model in like a year and a half. But I try to always, just for stress relief, I find that I always try to paint once or twice a week just to like forget my it is good stress relief.
Yep. You can just focus on something that has nothing to do with life. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and if I have a tournament in Eldar and I'm like, I'm not a stressed out person, but if I was like right now, I don't feel like painting Eldar, then I'll just build some Stormcast shit or I'll do whatever. But I think doing a little hobby every week does definitely keep you motivated and kind of grounded in the hobby, right?
Yep, agreed.
Cool. So we'll go on to the news. First thing in the news, AOS, some new stuff happened, but we're going to cover that next show. We got something special planned. We're going to get a special guest on. Actually, two special guests. We have
Excellent.
so we'll see. We'll cover that next week. We're going to skip right over. One thing that's coming out is there's a new Black Library website, which is kind of interesting. It looks on par with the new GW one, but it's kind of neat that they officially married Black Library and Warhammer Digital.
Yeah.
So even though they were always kind of linked before, now they're all on your one-stop blacklibrary.com. So you can go on there now and you can subscribe to, they have like little short stories series for AOS that you can subscribe to and get like digital media regularly. You also subscribe through your White Dwarf and all that if you don't want to get it paper copy sent to your house or pick it up at a store. I prefer to go with the paper copy because then when the bonus things come out, they get mailed to your house.
You get your free stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, which doesn't happen often, but it happened enough. I don't know if you get, I'm assuming if the digital subscription you don't get the bonus stuff.
Couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell you. I don't think you do. I really don't, but so there's that. So it's a brand new site. Forge World also went brand new, but there's nothing too interesting about that. Next thing that I think is interesting is we've been knowing for quite some time that GW has been changing and rebranding their stores. So I think it was only in London, they rebranded some of their Games Workshop stores to be Warhammer stores, which I think makes complete sense because what the hell is Games Workshop if you really think about it? Like,
exactly.
There's no brand recognition there. There is no like Games Workshop product. It's either Citadel or Warhammer. And now the Warhammer's dead. It's Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is like a subset of the Warhammer brand. It kind of makes sense. And so, this wasn't a big deal. And then all of a sudden last week in my GW app, 4 stores in the last, I think, 2 weeks have grand openings with new Warhammer names. And so one's in Sydney, one's in Paris, one's near Copenhagen or Copenhagen?
Copenhagen. Yeah,
Is that Copenhagen?
That's the Danish name for Copenhagen.
Okay, because the spelling was a bit off there. And then Munich has a store that's rebranded Warhammer. They got new renovations. They look a lot modern. From the pictures I've seen, they actually look quite fantastic.
Yeah, they look
a lot
pretty
better
sharp
than the red and yellow.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. It fits their business strategy. Well, one, as you said, it gives you the brand recognition because who the hell knows who Games Workshop is, but most people know what Warhammer is. If they're in gaming at all, whether it's the miniatures or the video games or anything, people know what Warhammer is. But yeah, it also lines up with GW's business message over the past couple of years, which is we're not a games company. Take that for what it's worth, but the fact that they're trying to move away from being Games Workshop and now being Warhammer really does speak to that. What surprises me is that it's still only a few stores. And, if this is a thing that, it's understandable from a pilot project standpoint, and I guess they're trying to roll it out through that, but it's a bit odd to now suddenly be marketing your company and store under 2 different names, depending on, because you can go to one side of London, or really anywhere in the UK, and it's Games Workshop, and then down the road, 20, 30 minutes, it's the Warhammer store.
Yeah, which is cool. Maybe they'll all change eventually. It's just kind of like you can't afford as a business to change all your stores at once.
Yeah.
Now, no North America. As far as I understand or know, there is no North American stores changed yet. I haven't seen a single notice, so maybe it could be some kind of copyright thing. You never know. Who knows? But that's what they're doing. So we'll go on to 40K news, and then the best part of this is the best thing that I think they could have released, because let's go over the last box game sets they've done. So I have them right behind me there. They had Space Hulk that came out, hugely successful, amazing, the original one.
Yes.
Sold out.
Yeah.
Then they re-released it after it had been sold out for many years, and Space Hulk eventually basically, like, it kind of flooded the market, and people were pissed off because they had paid $200-$300 for a limited edition item. Like, I ended up selling one on eBay for a couple $100 type thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I wasn't even trying to make money. I just put it on eBay for I think it was like $60, and it ended up just spiking.
That was one of the things they weren't supposed to re-release as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't supposed to re-release it. And then they did. It was like 3 years later, though, or 2 years later. So it was a significant time. The next one was Dreadfleet, which was a huge flop.
Yep.
I have a copy. I've never played it. Haven't opened it yet. That's mainly just because I've been busy. I've been actually dying to play it. Like, you have no idea. I really want to play it. But I didn't understand that, why they would release a new game that was kind of out of nowhere. After that, the Assassin's Execution Force actually was quite good value for what you got. You got 4 highly usable 40K beautiful models that were character models. Those would typically cost $30 on their own.
Yep.
So you were getting $120 worth of just models in this $140 box or $120 box. And the game's actually pretty good. And then you got a whole bunch of Chaos figures. It was actually good value, but it's still not a wildly popular board game.
Yeah. People bought it for the models, I think, is the main thing.
Yeah.
That's I think still the only way to get those the assassin models, isn't it?
The new assassin models legally is the
Yeah.
only way.
Yeah.
And the old ones are dated. They are showing their age.
Oh yeah.
So after that, and then so everybody's kind of think they're like, the board game market with GW is so hot and cold. It's the releases have been erratic, several years in between. And then this comes out, rumored Horus Heresy, Battle of Kelth box.
Yeah.
And it's like the new GW board game, and I think it's fantastic. So what it is you get roughly 30 Marines, some of which are elite. They're half word bearers, half ultramarines. You get 2 dreadnoughts. They're what's the name for them?
Contemptor. Yep.
There you go. Contemptor dreadnoughts. They're the new ones. The only thing I don't like about the models is the Contemptors look very static in the legs. So if you look at the pictures, look at their legs. They look like chickens, kind of. But it also comes with a game board. You get a transfer sheet. It has an old style like rule book. It says Horus Heresy, Battle of Calth rule book, and it's got the Index Astaris style, like the black border that they used to have. Tons of cards, custom dice. So it's rumored to be, I think, like 150 Canadian.
180 Canadian, 150
180
US.
Canadian, 150 US for 30 Marines, 2 Dreadnoughts, and a full-on kit. Now, if you look on the Forge World website, that's actually like $500 worth of Forge World merchandise.
Yeah, it is an amazing deal. If you are interested in 30K or just the 30K models, you cannot beat this deal. Someone on one of the local forums priced it out. You save over $200.
Now, they did drop the prices apparently on that. I forget the exact mark of armor that they're in. They're like, what, Mark 5 or something? They're the ones with the weird grills in the front.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually like really into Horus Heresy. It's really bad that I don't know this stuff. But they did apparently lower the price at Forge World for that mark of armor. And I personally don't like the Contemptor Dreadnought, even the Forge World one. I think it just looks silly, but that's me. But I think this is a good move. I think this is... And the rumor is that Lord of the Rings is going to be gone.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that because the movie series is done. The agreement they had with New Line or whoever the hell produced the movies, came to an end when I think last year. So there's no incentive for them to keep the product line afloat because there's no way that's been making them money, right? Like it's got to be dead weight. I mean, how many people? Okay, so you know a lot of people that play Warhammer, collect GW. How many games of The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings have you or anybody you know played?
I think Will's played like 20.
20. Okay, so one.
That was for like Hall of Heroes points, though.
Yeah.
I've personally played in 2 tournaments.
Ooh.
Probably about 15 games.
15
of
games.
Lord of the Rings.
And that game started in 2000.
Oh, all my games were when I lived in Toronto, which was 6 years ago.
Yeah. So
yeah,
not a very popular game. So I think it's a good move for them to get rid of it. I'm not saying the game is good or bad. I have never played it. The minis are great and it looks like fun, but again, I don't know anybody who plays it. So
they did the mass strategy battle version with the insert movement trace.
Yeah.
War of the Rings. That was actually fantastic idea, but it was poorly executed. And it took a game that was not designed, like the model kits were not designed to be on a grand battle scale, and it scaled them up to a level that wasn't fun. Like your charge range, if I remember correctly, was 1d6, which was frustrating, right? Because that's so random. Like at least 2d6, you're significantly more likely to get 7s, 8s, and 6s. So the spread is not as like it's still a wide spread, but it's not as wide as like 1d6 is like
Exactly. That's
it's
yeah.
crazy.
I mean,
Yeah, like
the fewer dice you have, the more random it is, basically, right?
yeah, but it's problem is the models are really cool. It's a cool theme. It's Lord of the Rings. It's awesome, but
Yep.
I get it. Like I hope that they maybe keep some of the kits that sell because apparently on eBay any of the metal Lord of the Rings figures are collectible items and go for a premium.
Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they're fantastic models. I can see that. That's definitely a collector's game. But
But yeah, so the
yeah,
rumor is that this new Horus Heresy box set is a even though it's a standalone board game, not a game, it's rumored it's not a starter set either, but it's rumored to be the brand new kind of flagship game that's going to replace the shelf space of Lord of the Rings. Which is great because Forge World proved that 30K is a game that people want to buy.
yeah, definitely.
And I
They've done a great
understand,
job with it.
and people get pissed off, oh, now they're competing with Forge World, but Forge World is a very luxury, boutique organization. And when Forge World can no longer meet the need, because I know they can't meet the need on 30K stuff, because I've been to Adepticon when they have it, they sell out in minutes and you
Yeah,
can't buy anything. So if they can't meet the need, then it needs to go into mass production. It needs to drive the cost down a little bit. And yeah, it's no longer a niche. It's kind of out of the realm of what Forge World specializes in is good for, right?
yeah.
It's good for the guy that wants to spend something extra for something cool that's a luxury item. It's not. It's the what's the luxury brand? It's like
Yeah,
I don't
it's the Cadillac of Warhammer, right?
Cadillac of Warhammer. That's
Yeah.
a good one. I was thinking more Honda and Lexus, but
Lexus, yeah, it's the Lexus to GW's Honda.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think there's another big thing to this as well, because of course, for anybody who doesn't know, Forge World and Games Workshop are the same company. They're just different sections of it. This is going to be huge for getting people into 30K in general, because you
yeah.
buy this board game. Sure enough, there's going to be another one coming out in the future, and maybe, just maybe, it's going to be cheaper if you want just a couple models to top yourself up to go with Forge World and pay the huge premium. You're paying, $60 for your 5 models, but it means you don't have to spend $120 on the new box, but you get all the same stuff in the end.
Yeah,
So
if
it's
you
a
and your
good way to
buddies
boost
start with
the sales.
this, and apparently 30K, like the tactical marines are kind of garbage. Like they're not garbage, they're just like they're like the staple of the universe,
Yeah,
right? They're the middle of the road. So by having, you need apparently like 30 or 40 of them. That's what I've just heard.
yeah,
I've never played. Nobody around like I wanted to play 30K so badly. I would do Alpha Legion, but nobody around here has any interest.
yeah. There's a few people in Ottawa who play, but I've never really had a chance to check it out, and frankly, I'm not interested in spending that much money to play it. So if this goes, full line of plastics, that'll be great. My only concern, I mean, I'm always sort of cautiously optimistic about everything GW does, and more cautious than optimistic. It is, it's going to be interesting to see if they do stick with a boxed game approach for it, or if they go more of an AOS style approach where they release this boxed game that has all this stuff, and then they release a whole bunch of scenarios that stack on top of it and lead it into sort of a narrative series of board games that you can pick up at any point and be able to play any of them, or something that starts as this and just expands into another full-fledged product line. Say,
Yeah.
30K starts with this for GW, and eventually it moves over to full plastics, and this is just their way of getting people used to, this isn't just a Forge World niche thing anymore. This is one of our main game lines.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like AOS, if you ignore that they murdered Warhammer Fantasy and take out all that rage, and you looked at it as like a bubble, this is a different company. Let's say AOS came out,
Yeah.
the release model and the structure of it is actually really well done. I think. Just
Yeah, we'll chat about that next week once we see more about the next release, because
yeah,
that could be a deal breaker on it. But yeah, no, I know what you're saying, and I agree wholeheartedly. If they stick with what they've been doing, it's a great way to roll things out, and it's a fresh approach, and it's something they needed. So
yeah.
I
Like I'm
get
not
two
saying
thumbs
that
up from me
everything in
on that.
AOS is perfect. I was just saying that like
Yeah,
from like a marketing and sales and like hype point of view, I think it worked out.
yeah,
So the next thing, new Tau book, which we're going to talk about. They came out with a new Commander kit. What do you think of
yes.
that?
The new kit is really cool. It's sort of the same style as the old Finecast one, but it's pure plastic, thank God. It is posable. There was a bit of misinformation that came out originally about this kit. It gives you the option to make the guy in the Cold Star suit, which is the Flying Monsters creature version, or the normal, just sort of big Crisis suit commander model. It does not give you all the parts to build two commanders, though. It is only one. So you can choose. They share the same torso and legs, I think, is the main thing, and then everything else just sort of stacks on top of that. So there's no way. Fine. Yeah, there's no way to build two, and there's nothing on the box or anything that implies that you would be able to build two. But it was something that a few people mentioned in a couple preview videos for it. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, the new kit looks great. I'll probably be picking one up at some point because right now I've got a super old one, which is just a converted Crisis suit.
Yeah.
But no, it's a nice kit.
Because they never really had a good Tau commander before now.
No, well, there was the Finecast one, which is a pretty cool model, but it's Finecast, so that has all the problems associated with it.
And then this is funny because I asked you about this next one. I said, "Hey man, I can't tell if that's a new Crisis kit or if it's repackaged."
Yeah, so it is a new kit. It does. So I don't have it. So this is just going on what I've seen in pictures of the sprues and what people have been saying. It is posable, but it's difficult to do so.
Yeah, because it doesn't look from pictures. Of course, I don't own either. Only you own Tau stuff.
Yeah.
In this whole relationship, but like the new commander, he looks somewhat more active than the traditional Tau suits.
Yes.
Like he's not. He still is a clunky Tau suit. They aren't meant to be acrobatics, but he looks like he's actually functioning, whereas these things tend to not.
Yeah, so the old Crisis suits, for anybody who didn't know, you could sort of position the legs, and there was a ball socket on the foot, and then the arms had static poses, but it was, again, a ball joint for it. So you could sort of have them doing cool stuff, dancing around, but that was about all you could do. The new one, if I remember correctly, first off, it has a new shoulder pad, which actually aesthetically looks really good. But it has a break at the knee, and it uses the same sort of little dimple that the Riptide and Storm Surge kits have to line up the legs. So you can trim that and pose it however you want. But it's a pretty tiny piece, so apparently it's a bit of a pain to do so. But it is better than the old ones. I don't think for anyone there's really a compelling reason to go out and buy new boxes of them if you already own a bunch of Crisis suits, though.
Yeah, so that's about that, because we covered all the other kits last week, except for we wanted to follow up, is that we were not griping, but we talked about the new Tau Terrain kit that was sold out in like 7 minutes, and none of us could get access to. We were like, well, is it a deal? Is it not a deal? So what they've released is the individual scenery rules now. So the Tidewall Shield line is 60 points. It's basically a mobile defense platform, and that one sells for individually Canadian, which is what we'll go by, $65.
Yeah. Yeah, we did the number crunch on this really briefly before the show. If you buy all of these separately, it's about $300 before tax to build the Tidewall gun rig that was $190 as a box, limited edition.
So it was like that. Because traditionally we'd be like, oh, why would we ever order that box? We never get deals. That was a deal and a half.
Yeah.
Like we're talking like, was it 50 out of? So that's an extra, I don't know, like 20% or something.
Oh, more than that. I mean, it's 190 versus 300.
It was 320. That's right. So that's 35% off.
Yeah,
right?
It's a considerable discount. And so to build off of that, we won't dwell on this, but it looks like there are some more boxed sets coming out. So think of the old like Army starter boxes. There's a Battle Demi Company, an Elimination Maniple, and some other Maniple for Adeptus Mechanicus. But they range from being $50. I think the lowest is like $35 off, and the highest is $80 off. Buying the models individually, and they're not bad boxes. Like the Elimination Maniple is six Cataphron destroyers and two of the I can never remember the name.
The robots.
The Castellan robots, and then the Tech Priest, and it's I think $40 off, and those are U.S. prices. So there are some really good deals coming out. If that's something GW keeps doing moving forward, I mean, 5 thumbs up. That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
that's a great way to do it. Yeah,
they listen to everybody. Yeah, you guys want a deal if you buy a big kit? Well, we're giving you $50 off. You buy a big kit.
exactly. And hey, maybe there's 2 or 3 models you don't want in there. You get them for free, basically. What's not to love?
Yeah, and they're all. I would say they're all like formation based. These
Yes,
boxes.
yes,
So it's
all
not
of
like
them.
in the olden days where you'd get like a starter box. You're like, this isn't even a legal army. I can't do anything.
Yeah,
Now these are all formations. These are legal armies essentially now.
yeah. You could take this, put it together, and play a game.
Not at the boys, but they're
Not
legal
a, well,
everywhere
yes,
else.
yes.
Well, not everywhere, because lots of places don't allow formations. Even in Ottawa, a lot of them don't allow
Yeah.
formations. So
Discussion for another time.
yeah, cool. So I guess the next thing is this will get a little bit repetitive because we've done it, but after the next week or two, all these events are done. So we have 3 or 4 events coming up real soon. First one is this coming weekend. We have Du Bois GT that we've talked about the last 2 shows. Awesome event in Rochester, New York. If you're listening to this, you can't go. So we're going to do maybe either an interim show or some kind of mini show where we're going to do interviews at the event. I have a portable recorder, so you'll hear more about that next week. We have our first Ottawa, I think it's the first Ottawa area Kings of War tournament.
Not the first, but the biggest so far.
When was the first? Was there one?
At Game Summit
Oh,
or
Game
whatever it's
Summit
called
had
now.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
This
that
will
doesn't.
this will be the biggest at 10 people.
I don't think that one counted. But
Yeah,
so November 28th in Canada, I do believe it's sold out.
I think
It's
so.
at Cobalt's Corner. But if you're looking for information, send me an email, canhammer.podcast@gmail.com, and I can forward you to the guy that's organizing it. It's going to be very noob friendly because a lot of us, this will be like our first or second games at King of War.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
many of you played? Two?
I played one.
One.
One game. The tournament's going to be 1,500 points, probably using rulebook missions, which are apparently quite good. And the one thing that blows me away about this is a 10-man event, and apparently Mantic is going to be sponsoring it.
Sweet.
Yeah, so that's some good community involvement from them.
Oh, and it's international because there is one American going.
Yes, that's true. Our
So,
friend John, who's been on the show a few times, will be coming
so
up.
any of you Americans out there listening, they're like, yo, it's too far, bro. Well, one of you's already coming, man. So
Just
I don't see what the
carpool.
problem is,
The
right?
country's small, right? I mean, it's smaller than us.
Yeah, you live in a small country. You can all come, but so that'll be fun. I'm actually really excited to see how that if that takes off or how it goes. And then next, I'll hand it over to you to talk about P&P because you have something changed, right? You guys
Yes.
did some stuff.
Yeah, so we'll keep this short and sweet. We've said it a couple times. We've got our next ITC event coming up, Power Fists and Psychers 2. We've dropped Electric Boogaloo. It's just Power Fists and Psychers 2 now. November 21st at Multi-Zone in Gatineau, Quebec. As mentioned, it is a full ITC event. We are using the direct ITC comp pack, the ITC army restrictions, ITC-based but modified missions, which have had some revisions since Capital City Bloodbath. Players Pack is all online. Everything's linked to on oneplusarmor.com if you want to check it out. The big change was we were able to add 4 new spots to it. We are still sold out, but it means that the waiting list is completely open. So if you are interested, get in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, anything, and we can get you on the waiting list. And there's a pretty high chance if you book early, book off, and you'll be able to get in.
Thing is like you missed the most important announcement is now that I get to actually play in it
Yes, and
because I
and
was on the waiting list,
and our fearless leader, CanHammer Chris, will be playing in it.
which is epic. So cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a short break, play some music, and we'll be right back to talk about the Tau.
All right, we are back.
Yeah, so now we're going to talk all about the Tau. Because it was Talktober, now it's Tovember. And, we're having a terrific time
Oh,
discussing
stop with the puns.
these Tau books.
That's
So
tolerable.
it is tolerable. So the new Tau book came out, but it's not new. It's the old Tau book, but modified.
Yeah.
And I like this. I'm actually really into this. So they said, okay, well, the Tau book actually was a decent book. It was lacking in a few units here and there. So they said, okay, we're going to just add these units. And then we're going to make this campaign pack that has all of the rules and formations that the Tau need to be somewhat competitive and all the new models. And we'll release most of it in White Dwarf. And they said, but then we'll also re-release the Codex to be a full one. And GW on their site came full out and said, in my app, if you already own the Tau book, you do not need to buy the new one. You can just buy the campaign book.
Yes. Which is a little sneaky.
I like it.
I'll give this to them. Well, it's good if you're interested in the campaign book and if you're interested in the other rules that come with it. It's bad in that the campaign book is actually $20 more than the new codex. So if all you care about is the Tau, you're paying a premium for nothing.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where if you're a cheapskate, and I don't mean that in a mean way, you're not going to buy it anyway. You're
Yeah.
just going to take them out of White Dwarfs or download them. Let's face it, guys, it's 2015. You're going to download them if you're a cheapskate. But if you're a collector and you were the type of guy that collected all the books,
Yeah.
your collection is no longer obsolete. You have something new to add to your collection and read, which is kind of where I fit in.
Yeah.
And if you're a new player, you have a full-on new codex.
Yeah, in that respect, it's definitely very good. And the other thing that's worth noting as well, and I give GW props for finally doing this. Well, not finally, they started it a while ago, but weren't doing this when they started out, is the digital versions of their codexes, the non-interactive ones, I'll note, are actually considerably cheaper than the hardcover books, which is
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, they're starting to. That could be because they got like the new CEO about a year ago
Yeah,
or 2 years ago, and so a lot of people said like, well, it's the status quo. Well, if anybody's gone through a CEO or major director change at like a major corporation, you're already operating 2 years to a year in advance. So when the changeover happens, it takes 2 years before the new CEO's policies kind of get implemented. So what we're
exactly.
seeing today happened a year to 2 years ago. So even though people have been complaining for 2 years about this change, it just takes it's coming, right? And
Yeah.
and from what I've seen, it is coming. You know, there
Yep.
are mistakes made. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not 100% on board, but there are issues. But this new Tau book went to me and I said, "Wow, I have a choice."
Yeah, I gotta say, with the stuff we talked about earlier, with the box sets, the discounts, the way they've been doing some of the releases lately, the way they've handled the new Tau release. Again, cautiously optimistic, more cautious than optimistic, but things are heading in the right direction. If they keep this up, it's fantastic for everyone. It's good for their bottom line. It's good for our wallets if we're getting discounts, and it's great for the hobby in the GW hobby, as it were,
Yeah.
but just for gamers in general, and that's all good as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Yeah. The only thing is like it'd be nice if some of their reboxes either dropped in price or stayed the same. But
Yeah,
we'll move on. Okay, so that was the book. That's what came out. So you have options, guys. Don't be like, oh shit, I have this old hardcover. Because I know, like my buddy Nate, he's like me. He buys the collections, right? So now he can just further his collection. It looks nice. Okay, so that's the book. Next on to move on is uh, what's different. So I guess all of the standard HQ stuff. So we did do a show reviewing the Tau Codex 2 years ago or something like that. So you can go way back in the backlog and check that out. So we're not going to cover that. We're just going to cover what's different and what's new. And since Logan has played a couple games, made a bunch of lists, something like that, I'm
yep.
going to hand it over to you. So what's different in the new book?
All right. So let's start from the very beginning. First off, the Tau got their own detachment. So in the old book, you just had combined arms, allied detachment, what have you. with this, and with every single book that's been released in 7th edition, I don't think anybody's been left out of this, actually. They now have their own unique detachment. So the Decurion detachment, basically, for Tau, if you're used to that terminology for it. So this one's really big, and we'll come back to the special rules for it later on, because that's its own discussion point. But basically, it works in the same way as all of the others. You have a core formation that you have to take, which is the Hunter Cadre. You have an optional detachment called the Contingent Headquarters, which allows you to take another commander or Shadow Sun, an ethereal, 0 to 1 ethereals, or the named ethereals, and then 1 to 2 units of Crisis Bodyguards. And then you can have 1 to 10 auxiliary detachments, which are a whole bunch of different formations that we'll cover as we go through it. But basically what it is if you had a Tau army in 6th edition based off that book, you can pretty much field it exactly as it was and fit it into this formation, which is really awesome.
Yeah, that's a relief, right? That, like, even though maybe you need to modify stuff, it's nice to be able to actually play the first few months of the new book, right?
Exactly. The meta will evolve. We'll see what people do with this, because obviously it's a huge opportunity to change things up. But really, unless you were spamming Sky Rays, which I guess a lot of people were, you're not going to have to change your list to be able to fit into this, which is really cool. So
really, people were spamming them? I've never seen more than one in an army.
Oh yeah, lots with 2 or 3.
Really?
It's the most efficient form of Marker Lights, because they're Ballistic Skill 4 Marker Lights with Skyfire.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, on Armor 13. It's a hell of a lot more durable than every other option.
Yeah, the Pathfinders just died first turn every game.
And Tetras are a little squishy, but Tetras were also pretty popular. But anyway, moving on from that. So Sky Rays specifically you can't field in this formation, in this detachment, with the exception of one of the auxiliaries where you can take 1 and only 1. So,
but you can't duplicate that at all, right? Which is kind of strange.
You can duplicate it, but it's so many points that you wouldn't want to. So we'll talk about that as we go through the formations. That's the big thing. We'll talk about the special rules for the overall detachment at the end of this section, because it's its own big discussion point. So going into the actual formation, the main one is the Hunter Cadre, and it has 2 special rules just for that formation. First off, your Overwatch bubble from supporting fire is now 12 inches instead of 6, which, as I found out from playtesting, is huge.
Yeah, that's really good.
You can very easily underestimate how far 12 inches is. Even with pre-measuring, it's going to take a while for people to get used to this. Because I remember in the games I've played, it's been, why can I fire with Overwatch from this guy over here when you're charging over here?
It almost doesn't seem fair, because it's like, oh, I'm going to charge you, and Assault already sucks in this edition, and is very rare. Oh shit, your whole army's just killing me.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. So it's again. So the whole overarching theme of this is that Tau had a big problem with Death Stars, and almost everything in this seems to counteract that.
Yeah.
So first off, you get your 12-inch Overwatch. The other thing Tau had a problem with is getting to and scoring objectives. Now all of your units can run and then shoot. In that order specifically, so you can't do like the Eldar shenanigans. But again, it's up to 6 inches of extra movement for free, and you can still shoot as if you hadn't moved or hadn't run.
Everybody's pretty much Eldar nowadays.
Yeah, well, yeah, it seems to be going that way. So that's pretty cool.
That's a popular rule. That's kind of where that whole running and shooting thing has come up a few times in different books. It's starting to be like a thing, right?
Yeah, mobility is king right now in 40k, and every army seems to be going that way, which I think is good.
Yeah, Necrons can do that in the one formation, or with the one character, is it? I forget, but it's...
There's something that gives it to them.
Anyway. They can do it. I know they can, and then the Eldar, and of course now the Tau, so...
Yeah, and Nids can do it with psychic powers. Like, there's a lot of stuff that allows it.
Cool.
So for that formation, it's 1 commander, 0 to 1 Cadre Fireblade, 0 to 1 Crisis Bodyguards, and then first off, you've got the troops section. For people listening to this and not watching it, I did that in air quotes. It's 3 to 6 units in any combination of Breacher teams, Strike teams, or Crew Carnivores. So basically everything that's in the troops section. Then you have the quote-unquote elites section, which is 1 to 3 units of Stealth Battlesuits, Crisis Battlesuits, Ghost Keel Battlesuits, or Riptide Battlesuits. big change here. You can now take 3 Riptides in a unit.
Yeah, that's the weird part. Everything's in units now in the Tau book.
So Riptides and Ghost Keels, you can take up to 3 in a unit, which is pretty cool. And they get their own rule, we'll talk about later. Then you've got your fast attack, which is 1 to 3 units of Pathfinders, Piranhas, Vespids, Stingwings, or drones. And yes, that does include marker drones.
Sweet.
And then 1 to 3 units for heavy support of broadsides, hammerheads. Hammerheads can also be taken in squadrons now of up to 3. Storm surges, again, up to 3 in a single choice, and sniper drones.
Wow.
So from there, we then get into the auxiliary stuff, which we'll go through pretty quickly, and then we'll come back to them and talk about the rules. You've got the optimized stealth cadre, which is 2 units of stealth battlesuits, 1 unit of ghost keel. Retaliation cadre, which is a commander, 3 units of crisis battlesuits, 1 unit of broadsides, 1 unit of riptides. The allied advanced cadre, which is 4 units of carnivores, 2 units of vespids. Fire-based support cadre, which at face value is the same as it used to be, 2 units of broadsides, 1 unit of riptides. A drone network, which if anybody's using Battlescribe or any of the other army building stuff, people seem to have skimmed over this, is just a unit of drones. So have fun with cheap marker lights.
Yeah.
Aircast support cadre is a Sun Shark and a Razor Shark. Assigned Aircast asset is just a Sun Shark or a Razor Shark. Infiltration cadre, 3 units of Pathfinders, 2 units of Stealth, 1 Piranha. Heavy Retribution, which is 1 unit of Ghost Keels, 2 units of Storm Surge. And last but not least, the only way to get a Skyray, the Armored Interdiction cadre, which is 3 units of Hammerheads and 1 unit of Skyrays.
What?
It's expensive.
You need 3 hammerheads?
I overlooked 3 hammerheads.
Jeez. Yep. That's almost stupid. Why would you want 3 hammerheads?
Yeah, it's rough. Like, you'll flat out hard counter armies that can't deal with armor, but at the same time you're taking like 500 points of something that's not good.
that almost makes me want to just take CAD with this list now.
Yeah, so that's something we can talk about when we get into the list building tactics behind this. So moving on from there, I guess we'll talk about war gear changes and any units that have changed. War gear is basically identical. The only thing that's changed is that the shield generator now has an option specifically for, ironically, ghost keels, riptides, and storm surges, but the riptide still can't take it. It's 50 points for that on the storm surge, notably. Past that, they've now put in the price properly for twin-linked weapons as well, which is nice. So you don't have to check that in 2 different places. But otherwise, it's stayed pretty much the same. The where is it here? Some of the weapons, like the air-bursting fragmentation projector, the cyclic ion blaster, are no longer experimental or whatever it was before.
Okay.
Whatever the ruling was, where you can only have 1, you can now take them on anything that allows them.
That's good. So they've experimented with them, and now they're done.
Yeah. For other stuff that's new, the commander can take the Cold Star Battlesuit that we talked about. Otherwise, he is identical in every way. Cold Star Battlesuit turns him into a flying monstrous creature. It means he can no longer take any signature systems, and he can't take any weapons other than his high-output burst cannon and a missile pod.
So he's just really not good?
He's terrible.
It's like, oh, here's an upgrade that makes your commander not good at all. Because now... Oh, you mean your units that used him to ignore cover? Yeah, they don't do that anymore. Yeah, your units aren't twin-linked? No, this guy just flies around and does nothing.
Yeah, he turns into a really, really shitty flying hive tyrant.
Yeah.
Don't
really
do
crappy version.
The model looks gorgeous, but don't do it.
I hate it when they do that. The model looks gorgeous, and they just make it not make sense.
Yeah. For the Ethereals, Storm of Fire has been reworded to specifically note the weapons it affects. Most specifically, it does not affect anything from the Storm Surge, which is good, because that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's just too intense. The Storm Surge, so that's funny, because we've talked about that. It's there's people that are saying it's over the top, so I don't agree, but...
Yeah. Let's see here. Farsight, still in the book. All the named characters, everything that was in the old book is still in this book. Most of them are completely unchanged.
So does he... what kind of changes does he do? Does he have any special formations in this, or no?
He has nothing.
That's kind of weird that they took all that out of it. That's like a 5th edition or 4th edition, and I don't know why they felt the need to remove it. And I was really hoping that they would bring it in, Because I'm assuming the Farsight Codex is gone now, right?
No, it's still valid because the old Tau book's still valid.
I guess you're right. It
It's
is the
based
old
off
Tau
Tau
book.
Empire, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
there's nothing that prevents you from taking it because none of the profiles or anything have changed from it. So you can still run Farsight Enclaves if you want, and it's still perfectly valid.
Okay, so never mind. Then he doesn't need to be fleshed out.
Yep. Cadre Fireblade is the same. Very important. Dark Strider is still the same. So when his unit shoots at something, it gets -1 toughness for his unit. And I will make this very clear. For his unit, we'll be back to that. Fire Warriors have been split into two things: Strike Teams and Breacher Teams. Strike Teams are the old ones, I think. Yes, Strike Teams are the old ones. Breacher teams are the new ones.
We covered last episode.
Yeah,
with
we
the
talked
close.
about them.
We had the big debate. They're close range AP3, high strength, but it's like we tried to find situations where we'd want them, and we really couldn't.
Yeah. Most notable thing about these is they are now minimum unit size of 5 instead of 6.
Yeah, that's actually nice because that goes with a lot of the new books, where in 5th edition they used to force you to take the core tax, even in 6th for that matter, force you to take the core tax. And now there's kind of a core tax if you take CAD, but nobody cares anymore. Like troops are just units of 5 you take, you can reserve them. Like
yeah, they're cheap. It's
it's
45
just not
points.
a thing anymore. Like GW seems to just not care about composition as much as it used to. So
Yep.
that's really nice because it updates the book to the modern era.
Yep, for sure. Next thing that's changed here: crisis suits. Exactly the same in every way, but you can have 9 in a single unit now if you want. So
Why would you?
If you really want to run that Farsight bomb that's been terrible for 2 years, you can really run that Farsight bomb. Let's see, Ghost Keel and Ghost Keel is the same as it was in every way from the White Dwarf release. The only difference is the fire team rule has been clarified, which notably Riptides have as well. And I think all of the vehicle squadrons have it too. Basically, if you have a max size unit, meaning 3, and they are all firing at the same thing, you get +1 ballistic skill.
Fair enough.
Which is a theme you'll see in many places for this. Pathfinders are still the same. Devilfish is now available as a fast attack choice, not just as a dedicated transport.
That just updates it to the modern way of thinking.
Exactly. Otherwise, it is completely unchanged, unfortunately. Flyers are the same. Vespids, snipers. Yeah, you can take the vehicles in squadrons now. Long strike is still there. Broadsides are still
Am I
there.
crazy? They didn't drop Vespid points, did they? Am I crazy with that
they're
one?
exactly the same, which is
That's unfortunate.
really unfortunate. So, this brings us into the formations. This is where things get fun. So,
Cool.
We'll go through the order they are in the book, rather than sort of order them in terms of importance, because that will depend on who you're talking to. First off, we got the Retaliation Cadre we talked about. So, really quick recap. Commander, 3 Crisis units, 1 Broadside, 1 Riptide. These guys have a pretty cool rule where they can all deep strike. And if they deep strike, they all come in automatically at the start of your second turn.
But do you want those things to deep strike? So I guess you would.
This is where it gets fun. They also get Relentless. Just as a rule. Not when they deep strike, they just have it.
It's cool because... So that's one of the problems, I guess you were saying. Like, if you're playing the Wolf Star, the guy's going to touch your bunker. This basically allows you to be like, oh, screw you. You're a bad matchup for me. But they always have to deep strike, right?
No, they don't have to.
Okay, that changes it completely now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you pop them up. Wolf Star now kind of spreads out in the middle. You could scatter out and play the objective game if you wanted to.
Exactly.
That's cool. I like that a lot, actually.
It's pretty cool. And when you deep strike for that turn, you get +1 to your ballistic skill.
Well, jeez, like just keep adding it. Like they didn't need that almost. But
nothing bad about that. So
Nope.
Again, let's keep in mind we talked about this. They can spread out, and the turn they deep strike, they get +1 to their ballistic skill.
That's 3 crisis units with +1 ballistic skill.
Yeah, it can be good. Next up, we got the Heavy Retribution Cadre, which is the Ghost Keel and then 2 units of Storm Surges. This thing is so pricey that you might see it, honestly. Depending on what comp you're playing in, because it's 2 units of Storm Surges, it's not 2 Storm Surges. So
Yeah.
depending on the comp, that'll screw things up. These guys, if your target's within 12 inches of a ghost keel, you get twin linked, which is kind of cool. And if the enemy unit is chosen to target by at least 2 units in this formation, that unit cannot run or flat out in their next turn. And, pardon me, if they charge in their following turn, it's reduced to half distance.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, so it's not bad. But again,
it's still a 1,000-point unit though, or a 1,000-point formation.
Yeah,
minimum.
Exactly. Was it 720? Yeah, it's 850 points or something.
Yeah, I rounded up a little bit because you're going to put support
you need
systems
upgrades.
On your dudes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's pricey. I don't think we'll see it too often. It's good. Again, keep in mind this fits with the theme of anti-Death Star, right? Suddenly that scouting thing is a bit less dangerous when its charge distance is cut in half.
Yeah.
So next we got the Infiltration Cadre, the 3 Pathfinders, 2 Stealth units, and a Piranha. I actually didn't pay much attention to this because you have to take a Piranha. If the unit's completely destroyed, all of your remaining reserves arrive the next turn. Okay? And if this unit, if a unit from this formation inflicts 3 or more marker white hits on a single unit, you get a free Seeker Missile hit on them that automatically hits. And you don't actually have to have the Seeker Missile upgrade.
The best part about this formation is just that it's such a cool idea. Like a Tau stealth scout formation. I think it's really cool. But is there any more to make me want to take this?
That's it.
I didn't think so. Yeah, because it's cool. Don't get me wrong, free Seeker Missile's great. But I don't know.
It's good and fluffy, but I don't think anybody's ever going to take it.
That's the problem. Is this could have been, just because that's just kind of what I'm into. This could have been a fantastic formation had it been done a bit better.
Yeah. So keeping with the theme of stealthy Tau, we get on to probably the best formation in this book, the Optimized Stealth Cadre.
Yep.
This thing is nasty. So 2 units of stealth battlesuits, 1 unit of ghost keels. And the special rule they get is called the Wall of Mirrors. At the start of your shooting phase, formation can network their stealth fields to create a wall of mirrors. If you do so, then the weapons used by the formation's ghost keels and by any stealth battlesuits from by any unit of stealth battlesuits from this formation that are within 6 inches of the ghost keel get ignores cover and +1 to their ballistic skill. In addition, their weapons not automatically hit, but their weapon shots are resolved against the rear armor of vehicles. Suddenly, those Strength 5 burst cannons are actually really damn scary.
Yeah, especially, that's awesome.
With ignores cover and BS4, and then you combine that with one of the buffs we'll talk about later with a Hunter contingent, they go to BS5 if they all shoot at the same thing.
Yeah, you know what?
Wave Serpents are not a problem anymore.
Same with Necrons, buddy.
Yep. Yeah, well, it completely gets rid of quantum shielding or whatever it's called, right? It doesn't affect their armor. So really, really strong.
Oh, your stupid Scorpion guy? Your
the brass Scorpion dies immediately against
dead. Yeah, this formation goes, hey, buddy.
So one of the important things on this is,
so good.
So for example, knights have their shield they can declare where it goes against, right? So if this resolves against rear armor, not really a big deal. You still get your 4-up invul, right?
Yeah.
So there's a fun bit of wording in the rule book, which is if you've got a situation where 2 rules are supposed to be resolved at the same time, and it's not immediately clear from the wording which is supposed to be resolved first, the active player, so let's say it's my turn as opposed to your turn, I'm the active player, gets to choose what order they happen in. So
that's been like that for a while in GW games.
Yeah, it has. But the key thing here is I can say, okay, it's the shooting phase. Tell me where your knight's putting his armor, putting the shield. Okay, it's on the rear. I'm not going to activate Wall of Mirrors this turn. I'm resolving hits against your side armor instead of rear or front.
So or you do it anyway.
Pretty good stuff. Next, we got the Firebase Support Cadre. On paper, it's the same as it used to be. 2 units of broadsides, 1 unit of riptides. Key things here, you no longer need max-size broadside units, which is kind of nice.
Makes it actually worth taking now, because you would never need 6 broadsides before.
Depending on who you talk to. It was really popular, actually, in the old version.
I just found it too expensive.
It was pricey, though.
For what it did. I don't know how many tournaments it won. It's like a lot of points that just sits there and shoots, right?
Yeah. In a lot of the big stuff, if you weren't So there were very few people that were successful with mono Tau from what I saw. For the most part, if you saw Tau in something, it was fire-based support cadre, and that was it. You wouldn't really take much else, especially towards the most recent few months. Anyway,
it just seems like too much in one place. But that's...
Yes, I agree. That's the reason I didn't take it. So their old rule was everything in the formation gets Tank Hunter, which was kind of cool, and Hatred Space Marines, or Hatred, all the Imperial stuff. The new rule is if they all shoot at the same thing, they get Tank Hunter and Monster Hunter. So a little bit worse, a little bit better in some ways. Comes out in the wash. But the interesting thing is that there's nothing that says the old data slate for this is invalid. So you're gonna have to talk to your TO about that.
If I'm your TO, it's invalid.
Yeah,
I would say.
I'd say it's been replaced by what's in the book, but again, we'll see what happens. That brings us to the Armored Interdiction Cadre. This is the one we talked about, the 3 units of Hammerheads, the 1 unit of Sky Rays. The thing you get here is you pick a point on the board. Anything that shoots at a unit within 6 inches of that point gets twin-linked. Which is kind of cool, but you're paying like 600 points to get twin-linked for your army.
And they're just crappy guns, most of it.
Yeah, not really worth it. If you want your Sky Ray, take an allied detachment and get 3 Sky Rays in it. It's going to be cheaper.
Like, you'd almost think they would have redone the Hammerhead to make it something. Like, that's the problem, is they didn't revisit any of the crappy old units. That's the only problem without them doing a complete rewrite, is they didn't revisit the crap.
Yeah, and that seems to be a trend for the most part. I mean, the Vespids got a little bit better from one of the formations we're going to talk about, but overall not too much. But yeah, the Hammerheads... The only reason you used to see Hammerheads really is they were the only thing that could deal with high armor, being strength 10.
Yeah.
And now you've got Storm Surges.
Yeah.
So, Aircast Support Cadre, this is the Sun Shark and 2 Razor Sharks. They basically get Demon Forge, or whatever it was, Demonic Possession. 2+, they ignore Crew Shake and Crew Stunned. And they get Repair a Hull Point on a 6 in shooting phase.
It's okay.
Sorry, at the start of each turn. So basically, crappy, it will not die, and Demonic Possession. Not bad, you're still never going to see these things.
Yeah, without a 5+ invulnerable save.
Yeah. Now we get into the Vespid one, the Allied Advanced Cadre. So, 4 units of Kroot, 2 units of Vespids, everything in it, all the Vespids get Infiltrate and Stealth Forests, which the Kroot already had. Any Kroot in the formation that are within 12 inches of Vespids replace Stealth Forests with Shrouded Forests and get +1 ballistic skill. And everything in this unit can use Supporting Fire, but can only give Supporting Fire to other stuff in that formation. So, overall, not bad. Doesn't do much to offset the fact that Vespids are still really expensive. And the other key thing here is it doesn't give them objectives secured. So,
but the thing that immediately interests me is, like, what if you took 20-man Kroot units, took minimum Vespid units, and we gave them... We should try this out. Get sniper rounds. Because now they're actually hitting. It's like a unit of 20 cheap snipers, 20 sniper shots, and now they're hitting on 3s, right?
That's interesting. For sure. It'd be worth...
It might not be good. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it might not be good. Because the big reason you used to take sniper rounds on Kroot was to deal with Wraith Knights. And not all that useful anymore.
That's true, because the Lords of War.
Yeah.
But... You know, it's just something interesting, right? Like they're now more survivable.
Yeah.
You now have, so if you're gonna take like a fire-based cadre, which I wouldn't, but whatever, you're now chilling back. You now have 4 units that are very survivable, kind of in the enemy's grill. That's a lot of sniper shots, right?
Yeah.
It's only 1 point, right? Still for the sniper ammo.
Yep, still 1 point. Yeah, it's not bad. The catch with this is you're already paying a 3-unit troop tax just to take the Hunter cadre.
Yeah.
If you take this outside of the Hunter contingent, which is their overall detachment, I can see it being useful. I'm not sure it would be optimal by any means, but it's not bad. I mean, it makes Kroot better, and it makes Vespids, gives you a reason to take Vespids.
That's the problem, is they just screwed up so badly with the Vespids that it's like...
Yeah, there are just too many points. That's the only problem they have.
Yeah.
It's like 80 points for a unit of 5 or something. It's It's a bit much. I mean, when
Even for
they're
like 50 points for 5, that's not unreasonable.
no,
Is that too cheap? Is that too cheap though?
I think that would be about in line with what they should be because they're AP3 weapons, right? It's strength 5 AP3, but at 80 points, they're more expensive than assault marines.
Yeah, and their range isn't that great. What is
No,
it?
12 inch,
18?
12
12
or
is
18.
12? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really short, and they can't take any special weapons. So you're basically getting shittier assault marines that cost way more.
And their leadership isn't great if I remember correctly. I don't want
Seven
to
or
flip
eight, I
back.
think. About the
Yeah,
same
which
as
is
what
not
Not
okay.
fantastic. So the only thing that's missing from all this, of course, is the drone network, which is listed as one of the auxiliary formations, but doesn't actually have rules. But it's just a unit of drones. They don't get anything fancy, which is fine. They don't need anything fancy. It's drones.
Yeah, and now with the new kits, there's more drones available, right? They have more There's something on the Games Workshop app about you'll never need to like you'll never want for drones again or something like that.
Oh
Like
yeah, everything comes with a bunch of drones.
but they come with more variety. Apparently, you might don't hold me
Yes.
to this,
No. No.
but apparently like you can actually like every kit that comes with 2 drones doesn't just come with two.
Yeah, it's
They
not
used
just
to
two
like
gun drones anymore.
it's all the
It's all
drones.
the drones. Yeah, which is
Yeah,
really good because
makes a big
yeah,
difference.
it's really tough to get marker drones otherwise.
Yeah,
I think the only other big thing that's worth noting that changed here is marker lights. And don't get your hopes up, people. They got better. Marker lights got changed, and you have another option for spending one marker light, which is that you can boost the strength of a destroyer missile, which are the missiles the storm surges have, from
yeah.
strength 8 AP1 to strength D. But only one missile per marker light.
Well, there's it's very common to have one extra marker light on a unit, right? Like if you roll
Exactly.
hot, that's the thing. So like
Yep.
I'm like there's no downside to them adding that because if you're let's say you have the Pathfinders, which why would you? Let's be honest. Well, maybe you would now.
You probably are taking one unit of them right now.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
two.
guess because if you're taking this formation, you're not taking
You're not
your
taking Sky Rays, you're not taking Tetras.
so yes, you're gonna take your unit of Pathfinders
Yep.
against a normal unit. You're gonna hit 10 of them. You're gonna hit 5 times, right?
Yep. Yeah,
And it's
and
what ignore cover is what 2
ignore
-2 your
cover.
cover.
Ignore cover is 2, plus 1 ballistic skill, or that stacks is 1, and then 3 is still the Seeker missile, which is
So
Seeker
boom,
missiles.
make one of your missiles D.
Exactly. And
That
this fills a huge hole that Tau had again, which is really tough to deal with gargantuan creatures, and especially at range, and really tough to deal with armor 14. This sort of completely negates both of them.
which is crazy. Just take railguns, which you never would, but
Exactly. So all of this together sounds pretty cool, right? But not necessarily crazy, just sort of in line with everything else. So Chris, we're gonna revisit a debate that is raging online,
yes, I love rage.
and I sent you the Games Workshop, and again this is air quotes, the Games Workshop response to this clarifying the rule,
Yep.
which this is why I'm more cautious than optimistic with GW, was an email from White Dwarf staff who checked with the rules team because the rules team never responded to emails.
Yeah.
So, this is the stuff you get for taking the Hunter Contingent, which is the overall detachment. First off, you get to reroll your Warlord trait, which is pretty cool. But there's another rule called Coordinated Firepower, and Reese, if you're watching this, I swear to God I'm not flogging a dead horse. It needs to be said. The ruling for this is, whenever a unit from a hunter contingent selects a target in the shooting phase, any number of other units from the same detachment who can still shoot can add their firepower to the attack. These units must shoot at the same target, resolving their shots as if they were a single unit. This includes the use of marker lights. And to make this better, when 3 or more units combine their firepower, the firing models get +1 ballistic skill. So that optimized stealth cadre, it all fires at the same thing. You get your +1 ballistic skill, you get your ignores cover, you hit your rear armor, and you get a second +1 ballistic skill.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because this rule rewards good play. Like
Yes.
a lot of people that maybe fail at 40K, they fail because they spread their firepower around the board. Whereas this is saying like, yo, shoot all your stuff at one target till it's dead, you get a bonus. That's awesome, right? Like there's been so many times when I've been like, you got to put a whole unit in to kill one Marine, but like I get no bonus with my Elder. This is really cool. Like this is This is like when they added the expansion pack to Kings of Tokyo that encouraged you to roll hearts to stay alive. Like they're just rewarding good gameplay. I like it.
Yeah. So to build off of that, so in the games I've played so far, the big thing with this is there's a whole new level of skill and strategy that goes into this, and we'll talk in a minute about why that may not be the case. But at face value, it's very, very easy to overcommit firepower.
Yeah.
Because with the Hunter contingent, you're not taking all that many units, and realistically, you never were with Tau anyway. But when you throw a 450-point Storm Surge in there, you're taking even less.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to overcommit against units, which, in the games I've played so far, I'm getting better at. But, it's easy to say, okay, I'm firing my Riptide, my Storm Surge, and my broadsides at this unit. I want it dead, and suddenly it dies from just your broadside shots, and you're left with a Riptide and a Storm Surge that can,
Yeah.
which is a bit tough. Now, where this rule gets a little tricky, of course, is gargantuan creatures have split fire, which sort of fixes that problem. But where the drama lies, and Chris, I'm interested in your interpretation of this. And remember, we were talking about Darkstrider. His unit gets +1, his unit attacks a target as if they're -1 toughness. We use that as our baseline for this.
Yeah.
These units must shoot at the same target, resolving their shots as if they were a single unit.
Yeah.
If I've got Darkstrider in my Fire Warriors, and I want to combine fire with my broadsides, do my broadsides also resolve their shots as if the target is -1 toughness?
I read that and I was like, my gut reaction is yes. It does. They are shooting as if they are one unit.
Yep.
So that's just the way it is, and they all have to shoot. And part of me even thinks like if you have a character with split fire in that unit, they can even fire at a different target because that's how one unit firing at one unit. The way I interpret this rule is you're basically saying like, let's keep it simple. I have 3 units of fire warriors. Can they get benefit from this rule? Or is that like a stupid example?
No, they can. Let's cut to the chase here. The question around this is if you have a buff commander, do the buffs he gives out, which apply to his unit because of how rules confer, do those affect the other units that are joining them with coordinated firepower?
So now, yes.
Okay.
Because they're considered one unit for shooting.
Yep.
And the buff commander's rules, which I just read because I'm using them, says that his unit. And so since they're one combined unit,
yep.
I don't want to say yes, but I say yes. You know what I mean? Like, I feel greasy saying yes.
Yeah, I can understand why.
But that makes sense. But then again, like, you're now committing 3 units and a buff commander to, like, so if the enemy has a Death Star, yeah, you're gonna nuke it. But against my Elder, I'm happy, man. I have 12 units.
Yes. So
like
that right there, I think, is the balancing point on this. But that's also where a lot of people... So first off, there are very strong proponents on both sides of this argument. A lot of people are saying, no way this is what they meant. This is absolutely friggin' retarded. There's no reason that everything in your army should be able to share these buffs. Then there's a middle camp which says, okay, this makes perfect sense. The only thing this really helps against is Death Stars because the amount of firepower you have to commit, and even then, a lot of the really nasty Death Stars still aren't going to get hurt that bad by this.
True.
But do we want these buffs to carry over to split fire? Because Tau get it pretty easily with target lock, and gargantuan creatures can fire at anything they want. As long as they fire one thing, they're still firing at the same unit. So
suddenly you can take the 3 broadsides of split fire like I'm taking to the boys. And now it's like I get the +1 ballistic skill, and only one of my broadsides has to shoot that unit, and the other 2 can shoot different targets.
Exactly.
I like it, though. I think it's good.
Yeah. Or in the case of the Storm Surge, you have your smart missiles from both of them, or from one of them even, that are firing at the same unit, and then you have 4 pie plates that are all shooting at different units with Twin Linked Ignores Cover and Monster Hunter or Tank Hunter, which is a little filthy. So
that takes it too far, almost.
Yeah, so that's the middle camp. Is the rule as written says they're one unit. Great, you get the buffs, but let's keep it to the scope of the one unit you're shooting at. So, and this is how we've ruled it for our upcoming tournament. is if you're shooting at that unit, yes, the buffs apply to you. If you're split firing, you can still split fire, but you don't get any of the bonuses.
But that's contradictory because if I have a unit of broadsides that split fires with a buff commander in it,
They still
all
get
benefit from it.
Yes, so that's where it's a little iffy. So and then you have the other side of it, which is rules is written. They're one unit, they get the buffs, do whatever the hell you want.
But that's a consistent ruling.
That is a consistent
even though
ruling.
that one's the most rudest, that's consistent. That's
Yeah.
consistency is very important.
Yep. And I see the points from all sides. Now the kicker to this is I mentioned the White Dwarf email, and it in no unclear terms says that yes, your buffs apply to everything. The rule is intended exactly as it's written. They are one unit. Anything that confers to a unit confers to them.
Yeah, maybe if the buff commander's specific unit does the split fire, it does count. But the other units that are shooting as if it's his unit might not get it at all then. Well, in that case, I don't think the units shooting with him should get it at all. Because his unit could be defined as the unit that he's in, and this just means that they shoot like they're one unit. It doesn't mean that they are in one unit.
Right. So that's
more consistent.
That's the far end of the interpretation, is that you just get to share the marker lights and nothing else. So
I agree with that. Actually, I think that one's the fairest as of right now.
Yeah. So
but GW is going to rule it that it works all ways. I bet you. So
well, that's so. This was the other part of the White Dwarf email. First off, yes, that is what they said. It works always. You get all the buffs. But the email also said they're not going to FAQ it because there's nothing wrong with the rule. It makes perfect sense as written, despite the fact that literally everybody who has read this is confused about it.
I wouldn't say I'm confused. It does make. I agree with them. It does make sense as written. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's disbelief more than confusion, perhaps.
It's disbelief because if you just take it, like if this was like any other sport, you would just read that rule and be like, okay, I'm going to exploit the hell out of this, screw it, right? But because it's a war game with soft scores, we kind of look for exploitation and try to fix it.
Yeah.
But
so,
like if this was Magic the Gathering, that would just do the most elite hardcore version of that, and that's it. Nobody'd say anything.
Yeah, and it would either be errated or all of the judges would know exactly how it works. So
yes,
that's the difference between this and every other game. Anyway, so that's where the drama is. There's like a 16, 17 page thread on Warseer that's been up for a day talking about this. There have been like 3 articles on Bowls and Frontline Gaming talking about it, and everybody is on different sides of this. When the book when the rule got leaked, Reese from ITC, who I mentioned earlier about the dead horse flogging, I was chatting with him, and he was chatting with a bunch of really high-ranked tournament players and TOs, and they all had different interpretations of how they want to rule it for their events.
Yeah.
So, I think for me, if we stick with the ruling we're doing for our event, I'm happy. But basically, I'm just happy if there's a consistent ruling, period. So whatever ITC goes with, if they have something before our event, we're going to use whatever ITC says.
Yeah, they'll vote on it. They'll vote on it.
It's apparently
and it'll be history because people respect their opinions.
Yeah.
And you know what? If we don't like it in the future, they just have another vote.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be something they haven't done before. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. I think overall the Tau book has got nothing but buffs, which is awesome. The only thing they've lost in this is, one, ironically, the ability to take a fortification in the new book, unless you run them as a combined arms detachment. And two, nothing has objective secured at all in the new detachment. So you really have to rely on killing everything on every objective you want.
Yeah, but even if you did take a CAD, you wouldn't have much objective.
You wouldn't have much that's worth a damn.
So I don't think it makes a difference.
Yeah. So overall, Tau have gotten much better against most Death Stars. If it's got a 2+ rerollable, it's still not going to do shit. You've still got no way to deal with psychic powers. So if you're playing out of the book and that's an invisible Death Star, you're still not doing shit.
Yeah.
If you're playing ITC and it's an invisible Death Star, you've got more of a chance, which is nice.
You got some big templates that you can now lay on them, which will consistently AP2 do some damage and cause some instant death.
So it's some good stuff there, especially if you combine it with Dark Strider, for example, the -1 toughness. So now you're instant deathing toughness 6 stuff with your Storm Surge, which is kind of nice. Past that, they still really suck against MSU objective secured armies. So it's
in certain scenarios.
In anything objective based, not kill points. Oh God, please bring it on. But this against Battle Company, Guaidia Strike Force is going to be a really, really hard match for the Tau, especially with Grav Spam, because as soon as that Storm Surge dies, that's, if you're playing 1850, between a quarter, what would that be? I don't know. It's like a sixth of your points gone in one shot.
But I think
Drop on
that's kind of
Centurions or
that's
something.
kind of your fault though for not taking split fire on your broadsides and taking interceptor instead.
Well,
I kind of believe that. Like
okay.
we'll know after Du Bois because you're taking the. Are you taking interceptor
Yep,
or?
I always run Interceptor to.
And I'm taking split fire,
You're
so
taking
we'll have
split
to have
fire.
this conversation after Du Bois.
So just going with the math on it really, really quickly. Let's assume you're hitting with everything and you're wounding with everything. So strength 7. We'll just talk about the high yield missile pods. You're going to kill one Marine. Is it really worth it to give up Interceptor to kill one Marine from a unit?
Well, no, I'm thinking like I could probably cripple or kill a Rhino. I could probably cause a Raider to jink or a Wave Serpent to jink. I can. This is how I see it. I'm not saying I'm right or
Yeah.
not, but you know what I mean. I have 3 broadsides, 3 of your Wave Serpents, which I know aren't hot anymore. They're now jinking. 3 Raiders are jinking or dead. 3 Rhinos are dead.
Well, you're only still glancing on 4s against those, or
Yeah, but
against Wave Serpents
you're
on
twin linked
5s.
ignoring cover, right? Twin
Yeah,
linked ignoring cover. You only have to do 3 hull points to an
yeah.
armor 11 tank.
And on average, you're not going to do 3 hull points with a single broadside. That's a problem.
Yeah,
If,
but
if you give them
two,
Tank
right?
Hunter, you might, but
But there's chances. It's penetrate. Like you're
yeah,
partially right, but
yeah. I think it. Anyway, that
kill
may
one
be.
bike. You kill one Eldar bike in 3 units. Cause 3 leadership tests. Bam.
I'll give you
That's
that.
actually
I'll
great.
give you that one. That's always hilarious when that happens.
Same with Ravenwing, right? Boom. Well, some of them are fearless, but
Well,
3
they all
leadership
have. They
tests.
shall know no fear. It doesn't matter. Um,
They're close range guns though. They run away a little bit. They might not hit you.
yeah. Anyway, I think the takeaway from that discussion is there are tons of different ways to play this, and all of them right now seem to be really good. So it overall it sounds again like Tau have gotten nothing but better. They've got more options. They've got more ways to deal with the problems they had before, except for psychic powers. Uh, they've got some really cool formations. It brings them, in my opinion, at least, this brings them directly in line with every other 7th edition book, which is good.
I agree.
I'd say, honestly, Space Marines in general still have the major edge simply because of all the ally opportunities that Imperium have. But, I mean, it's 40k, it's all, I'm not surprised.
But you got to
But,
think too. The Marines haven't been fully exploited to their. I haven't personally seen them fully exploited yet. I haven't seen the 12 drop pod army or the personally. I don't know if you've seen it. Just, it
no,
seems like nobody I know is running it.
yeah,
So,
not in person, but it's doing incredibly well in ITC.
well, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. You can't kill fucking 12 rhinos or no Razorbacks. Why would you take a rhino? But
Well, Rhinos are cheaper. You don't get the free upgrades, right? You just get the free transport. So,
yeah, but heavy bolt or whatever, done. Have a ton of them.
or a grav gun and a combi grav in your unit for the same
Yeah,
points.
shooting out the top. Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
So there's lots of stuff. I'd say it, as I said, it brings them in line with the books, or at least much closer. I think they're still going to have trouble with a lot of things they had trouble with. The really big Death Stars that are charging you on turn 2 are still going to be able to do that, but you're going to take a hell of a chunk out of them now before they do so. Especially if you bring in a Klexus that we talked about earlier, or
Yeah.
run something else to help out.
Or just deep strike, play the objective game, and win on superior player skill.
Yeah, which will still be tough because crisis suits still suck, unfortunately. But you've got the option now, right? You don't just have to rely on the one thing, so it's pretty cool.
Cool. So is that it for Tau?
That is it for Tau.
So we're both happy. Yeah, very good. So I guess we'll go on to Q&A. Anybody in the chat have any questions for us about Tau, Horus Heresy? I think there was some already printed that we'll go through, so Logan will read those off and we'll answer them.
Yeah, so the first question we have is from FireDreak22. Did you say hammerheads change in some way? And I think I answered this in the chat. No, they are exactly the same, except that you can take them in squadrons of up to 3 now. So instead of being, max 3 hammerheads, you can now have 9 hammerheads in a CAD if you want.
I would love for them to be good or somewhat usable. It's just I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Scarf, who is one of my buddies, who's actually looking at getting into 40k in the near future, Says, yeah, in Magic, all judges get briefed on new rules. Judging is also centralized. That way, there's consistency and organized play. Sounds as though Warham's would benefit from something similar. Nobody is on the other side of that argument, and in fact, that's what ITC that we've been talking about is. They are in no way endorsed by Games Workshop. In fact, GW has said on many occasions they don't want their business or their involvement in any form. But ITC is sort of the big tournament governing body right now, and more events are moving to using their comp, their interpretation of it. It's by no means as organized as DCI or whatever the heck it is now for Magic, but it's that sort of idea for it.
It also doesn't bring in the revenue, but I recognize ITC as the leader in the struggle for balance and consistency.
Yeah.
So,
and for the most part, they've done a really, really good job. The other side of the argument around that is that you're not really playing Warhammer anymore, you're playing ITC. Which depends who you're talking to, right?
I'm playing Warhammer.
You're still playing Warhammer. It's like, are you playing Warhammer? Are you playing Fantasy or are you playing ETC? If you
ETC is still Warhammer.
It's still Warhammer. And if you're not at the level where you care about that, it makes zero difference to you. And if you do care about it, you're probably heavily invested into one of the camps. Or you're like me and you'll just play whatever and try to get a good understanding of everything.
I'll play anything, but I prefer ITC just because of the rankings and the stats that it makes available to the community.
Yeah.
And the stats don't lie. So they'll go out there and they'll be like, well, look, this book just dominated the scene. We got to do something about it. And they do something about it. And that book may still win games because, of course, the really good players that own that book and army are still winning with it. But, it's just maybe not the lower levels aren't as constantly blowing away their opponents, right?
Yeah. And that's one of the big things as well is ITC, unlike DCI, or, again, I don't know what it's called now, is community driven. So when there are rules updates, it's a conference of TOs and, not anything quite that official, but it's a group of folks and they pull each other for feedback to make FAQ updates. But whenever they have to make rules interpretations or changes to how their composition restrictions work, it's usually, almost always in fact, put to a community vote.
Yeah, which I like. I like that they do a little bit of it democratically.
And as we mentioned as well, they've had a couple occasions where they've gone back and revisited previous things that were voted on, like their changes to D weapons, stuff like that. So they've been doing a great job. Huge props to Frankie and Reese over at Frontline and everyone that works with them on it.
And it should be said, you can't play ITC without all the relevant GW books. You still need the rule book. You still need it's not like it's like their rules changes are nothing compared to the overall scope of the material you need for the game.
Yeah, and with minor exceptions, which some people love to rag on, but their FAQ doc is like 18, 19 pages. It's actually probably longer. Let's say 30, just for argument's sake. It's pretty big. But
I write 20-page documents every day at work, so I don't care.
Yeah, but I mean, if you compare that to, let's say, the 6th edition FAQs GW put out, it's not that different in terms of length, and it's comprehensive. For a majority of it, it's rules clarifications. For a few of it, it is flat-out rules changes, but a lot of them, most people would argue, are for the better. So,
cool. Next question.
Next question. Did any units that exist in the previous codex change? Because it doesn't seem like it. Not really. The big thing, as we discussed, is just unit size changes.
Yeah, and a few model changes, that's it.
Yeah, but for the most part, no.
Everything's new, because even the Fire Warriors, they could have done the Breacher Squads more of an upgrade and less of a separate unit, but I think they chose to give them separate unit. Yeah, right? Which kind of is in line with AOS. What they're doing is, like, even though there's, like, the same unit with different weapons, it's a new battle scroll, right? So I think, as opposed to changing existing products, I think you're going to see GW move to a model of just new stuff coming out. And old stuff is what it is, right?
Yeah. Which is not bad, in my mind, as long as they don't... As long as the power creep isn't too crazy, because that's the same thing that Privateer Press does with War Machine, right? Is the old stuff is exactly what it was before. And actually, this is an interesting point, is that sort of seems to be how things are going, right?
Yeah.
6th edition Space Marine book to 7th edition Space Marine book. Really minor changes, but new formations and everything. But the models themselves, for the most part, did not change extensively. There were a few minor changes that had a really big effect on the meta, mind you, but it wasn't like this unit is good and now is shit, or vice versa. Um,
That unit is, and
yeah,
it is what it is. And yes, there may be a better choice, but at least you know what that does. And even though you played 300 games with it, now you know, you don't lose that play time, right? Like,
yeah. And that's the same thing that happened with the Tau book as well, right? Nothing got worse. Some of the stuff got better, mostly through formations and detachment. In fact, almost exclusively through formation and detachment. But nothing got worse. So if that model sticks with all the other books that are being re-released, or going to have new iterations, though please God don't do that to Chaos, they're too bad. It's a good thing, I think,
but
because
that's not true because a lot of chaos units are good. It's just the whole book doesn't work together.
okay. I'll give you that.
But each a lot of the Chaos Space Marine units in isolation in a vacuum
are
are
not bad.
fantastic.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for a new Chaos Space Marine book in the near future, so we can go back to this discussion. But yeah, I think that's a good move. It's what Privateer Press does right now, and it has been wildly successful for them. I'm not talking about sales. I'm talking about community reception and tournament stuff. It's been really successful for them, and it's the same thing that Fantasy Flight's doing with X-Wing, and as far as I know, with their LCGs. I guess by definition, with their LCGs, I think it's all good stuff. So if that trend continues, again, I'm amazed. This has been the most positive I've ever been about GW on one of our podcasts. But
well, you got a new book, and it happens to be a fantastic release, right?
Yeah, they did. As far as I'm concerned, they did everything right with this. I mean, perhaps slightly better wording on one of the rules, but I'm just impressed.
I like it when they change less. It just works because like the more you change, the more chance there is for errors. But
Yeah,
any
exactly.
more questions?
That is everything. I guess the other comment here again from Firedrakes, that's disappointing. No unit changes. Yes and no, but I mean, as we just discussed, some of them did change in that the unit sizes changed. So if you had 3 Riptides before, again, you can still take your 3 Riptides. But if you had 1 before, maybe there's a legitimate reason to buy 3. So it's an interesting sales dynamic for them, because previously, whenever a new book would come out, maybe not as a rule of thumb, but in general, the reception was it good in this last codex? Okay, it's going to be crap now. And you're going to have to buy 10 of the thing that sucked, and your 10 of the thing that was good are now terrible, and you only want 1. Not 10, but like 3 or 4 probably.
He's exaggerating.
I am exaggerating wildly, but that was sort of the general reception to it, and that a lot of people saw as a way to drive sales, which it did legitimately. And I think people were starting to get a bit sick of that. And again, maybe this is just me being too optimistic for once. Maybe GW listened, because the new approach is great. If nothing got worse, there's no reason to stop using what you had. But because you can now take 3 of them as one choice or whatever, or this formation gives them buffs, there's either reasons to buy more of them, or there's reasons, if you're just getting into it, to buy the whole model range, except for Vespids.
Yeah, don't buy Vespids.
Yeah.
Crude are really good, though.
Yeah.
I'm taking Crude too, boys. I really like them.
If I had the models, my sort of troops choice would be 3 outflanking units of Crude.
Yeah. Infiltrate's a great rule.
So next question we have. This might be a stupid noob question, but how does the Forge World stuff play into this at all? Has Forge World released anything new and or cool to coincide with a Tau update? And wow, big question. Are Forge World models not a thing in North American organized play? So, tackle this one at a time.
Okay, so the first aspect was is there any new Tau releases?
Or how does Forge World play into this, if at all?
Into this release, it doesn't, because Forge World released what's the super mech guy it released several months ago.
Yeah, the Tuna suit, or the Taunar Supremacy suit.
So it released like a Titan for Tau, but that was kind of in advance of this release, so I don't think it was in direct relation to this. And if you actually look into the White Dwarf, right now Forge World is releasing Eldar Corsair stuff.
Yep.
So it seems like they're not linked at all.
Yeah, they're off on their own thing. So what's interesting, of course, I guess this ties into your first 2 questions, is how does Forge World play into this, and have they done anything for this? Is that none of the Forge World stuff, as per present, works at all in this detachment. If you want to use it, you have to take a Combined Arms detachment or an Allied detachment, which is the older way of playing Tau. Let's say, just for
But it's easy to do if
using
you really want
generalization.
to.
Oh yeah, it's very easy to do for sure.
And Forge World may release formations in the future or something.
Yeah, and apparently they probably are.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, are Forge World models not a thing in North American Horizons play? Oh, they are. They so are. At least in ITC, but even with Du Bois and the wacky comp they're running, Forge World's everywhere now. It's very, very accepted, and with the ability to get it through less than legitimate means, it's becoming very popular.
And the thing about Forge World you have to keep in mind, the reason why it doesn't seem as popular is there's a few Forge World kits, very few, I want to say 4 or 5, that are fantastic. I can think of the Lynx for the Eldar,
Yep.
the Hornets for the Eldar.
Hornets, yep. There's a bunch of the Knights, the Acheron especially.
They're actually better because they can do certain combat attacks that'll hit everybody, so they can take out some of the Horde stuff. But there's maybe like 4 or 5 things that pop in my head as good Forge World. I don't even know if Thud Guns are still good. But the rest of it is usually way overpointed and kind of garbage rules-wise. So Forge World is very bipolar, is that it's either underwhelming or overwhelming, and there's very little in the middle. So you kind of see the same 5 kits over and over again, and then nothing else.
Yeah, that is true. There are definitely a couple edge cases, like the Rapier batteries and whatnot, which are good, but as you said, they're quite expensive. But you see them in some Chaos lists. Then there's stuff like the Hellblade, which is, again, good but not great.
Yeah.
Chaos Knights are going to be a thing now.
And Forge World suffers from this thing where they release these big hardcover books that are $200.
Yeah.
And maybe they're worth the money. I don't know.
They are for collectors.
But the problem is so you have this big book with tons of maps, tons of campaign, tons of artwork, gorgeous, and then they have like 4 pages of rules in them.
Yeah.
And then those rules become irrelevant really fast. And so then they have to release that book as an update, or they don't update it, and they release a website page. And I think what Forge World, my opinion, should do is same thing I think with AOS, which we'll cover next week, is remove the rules from those books and keep them as campaign books, and then release the rules for free online.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly.
Because it's literally 4 pages. Like, you're buying that $200 book or $120 book. I don't think they're $200. I think that's an exaggeration.
Well,
but
with import fees and everything and shipping, they're pricey.
Yeah, you go to Adepticon, you get it for the price.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Whatever. But it's literally like you flick. There's nothing for rules in them. So I think it ruins the books and causes them to update it. And I think that's what causes people not want to buy Forge World.
Yeah, that is a good point. So one of the more recent examples is Imperial Armor 13, which I think Siege of Vrax, or that was 14. Anyway, it was one that had all the Chaos Space Marine and Renegades rules. If you own that book, it's for like 2 model entries. Yeah. There are about 20 pages of rules in it, which is big for those, and then about 280 pages of pictures and a little bit of fluff. But it is very much like it's like the Horus Heresy books. Though I think they anyway, it's a collector's item. You do not buy these books for rules. If you're going to play these Forge World models, you have obtained your rules elsewhere, whether it's a PDF or it's something they've posted on their site, which they've done with a lot of the new stuff. So shout out to them for that. Or you're just using, Battlescribe or Army Builder or something, or Quartermaster, and the rules are in that file, and you don't want or need the book.
Yeah, they're just a little bit out of date.
Yeah,
Forge World's just a little bit out of date with 2015 rules releases. And to tell you the truth, 40K until fairly recently has been out of date.
Yep.
And even now it still is. AOS is the closest GW's come to being 2015 worthy, but of course it's lacking in other regards.
Yeah.
But if they went 40K to where all the rules were free in an app and they kept all the formations and all that stuff and kept the same 40K rulebook, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would be big, and I can see that happening, right? They obviously make money off the codexes. There's no reason to stop releasing them. But if they move to something like that, and they kind of are, right? Like when new rules are coming out, they're in the White Dwarf, which is great because White Dwarf is dirt cheap now.
Good for a weekly release. It's nice. It's
good
reading, right? When you're on the toilet.
Yeah. Anyway, it surprisingly positive. Again, another comment here from, I think that's Caleb. Ted.
Ted it? Tenet, yeah.
Yeah, I want NID changes when they redo the book. Well, you might be in luck. Rumor mill says it's either December or January for NIDs.
Yeah.
And they are apparently getting a new gargantuan creature from their codex. Nobody knows what yet, though.
Yeah, like you don't know, like a couple NID formations, and all of a sudden the existing range might be effective again.
Yeah, yeah, that's the big thing.
Like look at the Tau, right? There's a few units that are good now because of the new
yeah,
formations.
if they do something with NIDs to make it so you're not just playing Codex Hive Tyrant, so many people will be happy,
Yeah.
especially if they don't nerf Hive Tyrants as well.
And they have to take into account that because NIDs can't take any form of allies,
Yeah,
they just need to be really good on their own, and they need to be top notch. So maybe
yeah.
they will.
And then another comment from Caleb there, just to naysay, there are reasons to buy new stuff. I'd buy Riptide, Storm Surge, Big Stealth Dude. They seem best. Yes and no. So Storm Surge for sure. It seems to be an auto include for 1. A lot of people are saying auto include for 2. Not sure I'm in that camp yet.
I'm not either.
It's a lot of points for it. Anyway, I think you're always going to see 1 Storm Surge. So probably yes, but against a lot of points, and there are ways to play the list that don't include it at all, which can still be very competitive, I think. As far as Riptides, honestly, I think we're going to see less of them, if anything.
One's good.
Yeah, they're still really good. You're still going to want to take 1 because the rest of the stuff in the elite slot sucks. And then for the Ghost Keel, if you're not running the Ghost Keel in the optimized Stealth cadre, it's probably not worth taking a Ghost Keel. And you're only going to take 1 in that because of how expensive they are.
Yeah.
And that formation, to kit it out so it's useful, meaning you've taken fusion guns on the 2 stealth suits that can, and you've taken Twin Light Fusion Blaster on the Ghost Keel, is 360 points or something like that, 340 points. Not cheap.
And you know what? I haven't done this for 40K yet, but it sounds like maybe I have to do a research project. In Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition, somebody came to me and said, all the new stuff's really good. You always want to buy all the new stuff, and you know, and I did them. We went back like several books, and we listed how many new released kits were crappy in game, and how many were like over the top. And it was actually the crappy kits tripled the over the top kits.
Yeah.
It's just the over the top kits were so over the top that they like flooded the market and were obvious. So we might have to do some kind of analysis for 40K like that.
Yeah, well, that's fair, right? Like, thinking back to Warriors of Chaos, you had Skull Crushers. Amazing.
Yeah.
And then you had, what was it, Slaughter Brute?
And the Mutilix Vortex
Yeah,
Beast.
just terrible crap.
Dragon Ogres, the new kit came out and they were crap.
Amazing models, though. I mean,
Amazing
absolutely
models.
gorgeous. If they were good, I would have loved to run them, but they were so bad.
Like, I hate to reference fantasy in a 40K show, but like I just don't have any point of reference for 40K to do that. So cool. So I guess any more questions?
That's everything we've got.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, in the chat for contributing. As usual, I'm Chris at CanHammer Chris on Twitter, and this is
Logan from OnePlus Armor at OnePlus Logan on Twitter.
For more information, go to canhammer.com or go to oneplusarmor.com. We have a lot of events coming up. We have a super special announcement next podcast, so you have a lot to look forward to. It's going to be AOS plus some 40K announcement about some kind of super crazy event that we run every year that people are really excited about.
Yep.
So stay tuned.
Little kid excited about that one.
Yeah, so it should be pretty good. Other than that, guys, thanks for listening and have a good one.
All right. Good night, everyone.